Hello, everybody. This is Jesse Schreck with Practical Missions Cohort, and today we are going to do another question with another answer. Very good question, very useful for those who are considering to come join us in the work here in Italy.
Preziosa è per me la tua parola, è come un tesoro dentro di
Okay, so the question that we have today has to do with missions trip, coming on a short-term mission trip, something that we encourage people to do. We want people to be a part of that. Very useful for the work that we do here in Italy, helps us to reach more people, have a bigger impact, creates awareness for the church plants that they are a reality. People can see they're people from other parts of the world partnering in on that work for the souls in that area to be evangelized, lost to be saved, disciples to be made, churches established, and so on. Very good in every way. Great opportunity also for people who want to do missions but maybe don't want to go to the jungle in Africa and dig a well, or maybe they already did that and they want to try biblical missions, evangelistic style, and so on. Great opportunity. And the question is simply this. If we come and do a mission trip, how do we overcome the language gap? If we come and do a mission trip, how do we overcome the language gap? They speak Italian, you guys, we speak English. What can we do? How does that work? Great question, and four simple things I'll say just to clarify this and show you that it is not a big issue. Study as much as you can, number one, before coming. Study as much as you can. So you can pick up little booklets, little things. You can go online, listen to podcasts, YouTube channels, where you can learn some basics of the Italian language. Always, we greatly encourage people to do some prep work before you come. Learn as much as you can, because that helps your witness. There's a time when the Apostle Paul stood up in a crowd and he began speaking in a particular dialect. And because he spoke in that dialect, they listened all the more. So if you can learn as many words as you can, understand as much of the language as you can, practice beforehand, it will help you when you are doing evangelistic work to gain their ear, to gain their heart, and to give them the gospel. So number one, how can you overcome the language barrier? Study as much as you can before coming. And even when you're here, be flipping through, be asking questions, flipping through books, asking questions to the missionaries or Italian people. Number two, we have translators. How can you overcome this language gap? With the help of our translators. Those of us living on the field full time, or people from the church plants who speak English already. They're Italian, naturally, and they can help. They'll be involved with the work, translating, and so on. Translators are your friend. Take good care of them. Buy them an extra gelato when you can. Take care of them, get to know them, and they will be your helper when you want to communicate the gospel. Even though you have the language gap, you're speaking in English to an Italian person, they help with the translation process. So even when we do a puppet show, for example, and you want to tell your story, you say it in English, which is actually draws a crowd. Italians like to hear a little bit of English too. And then your translator will come next to you and translate that into Italian and interact with the children and whoever it is, even in the town square when we do it with the adults, the drama ministry and things like this. The third thing then, so number one, study as much as you can before you come. Number two, love your translators. We have translators for you. Three, use also English. So don't be afraid. Don't be embarrassed that you speak English. Italians, they study English at school and they like to practice. They don't always get an occasion to put it into practice. So they might be a little shy or humble about it, but most Italians actually speak a fairly good amount of English, way better than you on the average American speaks Italian, for sure. So you can not be ashamed, but you can use your English. And as I mentioned, it also is a way we draw in crowds sometimes. That adds a little bit of appeal. What's going on here? Why are these English-speaking folks saying something, and what do they have to say? What is it that's so important that they would do that? So use the English, and then the last one here would be introduce people that you're talking with. So when you get those one-on-one conversations or two-on-two, two-on-three, you're talking with a group of people and there's English and all this, and it's a good conversation, it's going well. This is when you look for one of the missionaries full-time here with us on the field and you say, hey, come over here, I want to introduce you to these guys. Hey guys, this is a guy, he lives here full-time, he speaks Italian, she speaks Italian. Get to know this person and they can tell you more. That's the whole point, and one of the big roles of a short-term trip when you come is you're helping to bridge the gap, having us meet people we couldn't ordinarily meet as God providentially brings them in our path while we're evangelizing, introduces us to them to us, and we begin a relationship with them, which Lord willing will lead to a follow-up conversation over a coffee or something like this, and Lord willing they'll be saved and join in on the church as well. So 4 ways to overcome that language barrier. Not as scary as it needs to be. The language barrier should in no way prevent you from wanting and being able to come on a missions trip. Been doing this for many years now with many different Americans who've come. Many have begun applying these things, learning the language, and obviously benefiting from their translator, taking care of their translator, using their English, because that's not a bad thing necessarily. And then remembering the big picture, we're here to help the local church plant, to reach more people and to have people meet the people of the church, meet Jesus, get saved, and so on, and playing your role. So that's it for today. Shorter episode, but good question. And until again, the next time when we have another question with another answer. God bless. Ciao, ciao.